Now let us see something which is called speed. Speed comes from measurements. Now speed is the part of mathematics, but also we learn in science. So let us learn more about a little bit about speed. Now speed, before we learn about the speed, we have to know the definition of the speed. Now speed is the ratio of distance traveling to the time taken. When you talk about the ratio, means it is distance per time. The distance that you have traveled, if it is 10 kilometers, and then you divide by time that you have used it. Example, you have traveled from one place to another. Now you just want to know the speed that you have used it. So you calculate the distance and then you divide it by the time that you have taken from that point. Now note, distance is measured in terms of meter or kilometer, and time is measured in terms of seconds or hours. So we just measure time in terms of seconds or hours. So this is the unit for distance and this is the unit for the time. Now if that is the case, speed is equal to distance which is measured in kilometer over time which is measured in hours. So according to your level, you have to know distance, speed sawa sawa na distance unachukua umbali unagawanya kwa muda, distance over time. Then the unit of speed is kilometer per hour. That is to say kilometer divided by hour, that is to say kilometer per hour. And therefore when talking about the speed, you mean of something that is called distance over time. Kwa lazima ujue unapotafutia this speed, lazima uchukue distance over time. Now, after we have seen that one, let us see the other thing. It's called. Now, when you talk about the speed, example, this is point A, and this is point B. You have traveled from here up to here, and you have used to travel from here up to here. You have used 10 minutes or 10 hours. But the distance from here up to here, it is 50 kilometers. Now, when you just want to know the speed that you have used, that is, you take the distance and then you divide it by time that you have used it. Now that is to say, that is what we call speed. So taking distance over time means that you just calculate the distance from A up to point B, and then you just calculate the time that you have used from point A up to point B. Now definitely that will be used to find out the speed. Now the speed is distance that you have traveled over time. Now if distance is measured in terms of kilometer and time is measured in terms of hours, this is what you say, the speed, the SI unit of speed. The speed is measured in terms of kilometer per hour. But all the speed can be measured in terms of meter per second. But if that is the case, if we know speed is equal to distance over time. Now let us know this is B. Now, if you just want to calculate the distance that have been used, we make the distance at the subject of the formula. We say, if this is we just want to make this as the subject of the formula. Now we just put this over 1 to make it that fraction. Now closing multiply. We are making distance as the subject of the formula. Now it is 1 times distance, which is equal to speed times time. And therefore, distance can be calculated by taking the speed of an object times the time that you have taken. The speed times the time that you have taken. And therefore we can definitely say that distance is calculated by taking the speed of the object times multiplied by time taken to cover that distance. So that is what we talk about distance. And distance is measured in terms of meter or kilometer. But when you just want to calculate time, remember speed is equal to distance over time. And then when you just want to make time as the subject of the formula, you will definitely get that time is equal to distance over speed. Distance over speed. So distance over time over speed is what we call as time. So when you just want to calculate the time taken from point A up to point B, you only calculate the distance, then you divide by the speed of an object. That is what we can definitely get what is called time. Now this is how we do it. Now let us see some more examples on how to calculate the things that are happening. And therefore, this is how, if speed is equal to distance over time, and therefore distance is equal to speed times time, and then time is equal to distance over speed. And therefore, let us see the other things. Now, the other things here is all about, we have said an example here. An example, a van traveled a distance of 200 kilometers for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Find its speed. The question is, a van traveled a distance of 200 kilometers for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Find its speed. Now from the question, we just want to know what are the data that we need given. We just have distance, we just have time. But the time that we've been given, it is in terms of hours and minutes. But you have to put them in 1 unit. And therefore what we should do, we convert these minutes into hours. And therefore, from the question, we have distance, which is represented by D, which is equal to 200 kilometers. And then, in time, we just have time, T, which is equal to 2 hours and 20 minutes. But this 20 minutes is out of 60 minutes. So, 20 over 60 is equal to 1 over 3. And therefore, we have 2 and 1 over 3 hours. Speed is not there. If speed is not there, our question now is to find out the speed. Now the problem is to find out the speed, and the means of the form of finding out the speed, we just want to know. Now let us try to show this one. And therefore, from the question we have seen D is equal to 200 kilometers. And then we have seen time is equal to 2 and 1 over 3. This is hour. Now we know speed is calculated as distance over time. It is distance is equal to 2 kilometers. And time, it is 1 over 3. Now we just want to calculate that one. And therefore, we just have this. It is 200 over, then it is 7 over 3. Now which is equal, we just want to obtain it. It is 200 times 3 over 7. Now it's equal to 600 over 7. And therefore, speed is equal to 600 over 7. This is kilometer per hour, which is equal, and therefore after calculating this one, you will definitely find 600 over 7 is equal to what? Now it is 85.7 kilometers. And therefore we conclude by saying that the speed is equal to 85.7 kilometers per hour. And therefore this is how we can possibly calculate. And therefore the speed is obtained by taking the distance, then you divide by time. But you have to make sure that it is in kilometer per hour or it is in meter per second. But when you decide to say kilometer per hour, you just make sure that distance is measured in terms of kilometer and time is measured in terms of hours. Now we have taken 200 over this one. Remember this is 200 divided by 7 over 3. Now according to the fraction, we just have 200 over 1, then divided by 7 over 3. Then we change the sign and it becomes times. Then we change this one. Numerator becomes denominator and denominator becomes numerator. Now this 3 over 7, now that is 600 over 7. When you take 600 over 7, then you divide by 7, definitely you find it is 85.7 kilometers per hour. So this is the speed. Now let us see the second example, and that will be the last example in how to find this one. Now, the second example is that if the van traveled 8 kilometers per hour, how far will it travel for 5 hours? When you look at here, 80 kilometers per hour, that is the speed. And 5 hours, that is time. So we just have speed, which is 80 kilometers per hour, and we don't have distance. And that's what we've been asked to find out. And then time is equal to 5 hours. Now, the question is to find out the distance that have been used, the distance that have been covered. Now, let us see how to go about. Now, we know what we've been given from the question, we just have speed, which is equal to 80 kilometers per hour. Then, we just have time, T, which is equal to 5 hours. Now the question is to find out the distance. Is equal to what? Remember we have said speed is equal to distance over time. But distance, we said earlier, distance is equal to speed times time. Now when you look at this, speed is equal to 80 kilometers of hour times time is hour, 5 hours. Now hour, I'll count, which just answer. Now it is 80 times 5, which is equal to 400 kilometers. Now, therefore, the distance now is equal to 400 kilometers. And therefore, we have got the distance after taking speed times time. Now, speed times time, or matter time, is equal to what we call as distance. And therefore, when talking about the speed, you have to know the speed is calculated after taking the distance covered. Then you divide by the time that you have taken to cover that distance. And therefore, you look at the question, definitely you understand what is going to be there. We've been told what, and what is the problem to the question. And definitely what we want to know, the speed is always calculated by taking the distance covered and then divided by the time taken to cover that distance. And therefore, when solving this question, it is very important for you to understand what are the requirements and what are the needs for the formula, what are there in the question, and what is the problem of the question. And therefore, by concluding, you can simplify, make the subject, you can make time as a subject, and you can make even distance as a subject of the formula, so as you can possibly find out what you require. Examples we have seen here, speed was there and time was there, but the distance was not there. And therefore, you have to make that is distance as the subject of the formula. And therefore, by doing so, you can even calculate what you need, whatever you want, you can calculate. But all in all, is that speed is equal to distance over time. And that's all about what we call at speed. So this is just like a subtopic in measurements. So we are through about it, and that's all. Next time, ciao.